Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How's that? All right, testing 1, 2. I'm trying to connect to it. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna get up. That way. I know that. All right. Go that way. My left. You stand the other way. Hey folks, Roland Martin here. Today is Friday, June 21st, 2019. I'm broadcasting live from Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm here to host the Susan Taylor National Cares Mentoring Movement Golf Tournament. But of course, the show must go on, and so I decided to do the show from outside. It's a gorgeous day, a little warm, but it's all good. On today's show, civil rights leaders demand justice for James Weaver after an off-duty Stockton police officer points a gun at him. Weaver will be joining us right here to tell his story. Also, another officer involved with shooting where a black man shot and killed in South Bend, Indiana. Mayor Peter Buttigieg, of course, who's running for president on the Democratic side, he had left the campaign trail to return to the city to address what is going on in that particular city. Also, speaking of the candidates, all the Democratic candidates are in South Carolina for the South Carolina Democratic State Convention tonight as we speak. Congressman Jim Clyburn is having his huge statewide fish fry. Well, all of them will be there. He's also saying he's quite surprised that Senators Cory Booker and Kamala Harris are not leading in South Carolina, where nearly 50% of all voters are African American. What is going on with their campaigns? Also, Congressman John Lewis comes to the defense of Vice President Joe Biden after his comments with regards to segregationist senators Jim Eastland as well as Talmadge. And so we'll tell you what Congressman Lewis had to say about that. Is your diet killing you? The Minister of Wellness is here to help you sort through all the issues when it comes to getting you healthy. And also, what the hell's wrong with Larry Elder? He literally went on Fox News and said that no Republicans own any slaves. Can he read? This is the same man who wrote a book called Stupid Black Man. How about Stupid Larry Elder? Folks, it's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, glad to have you here. Roland Martin here, broadcasting live from Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm here for Susan Taylor's National Cares Mentoring Golf Tournament, helping them raise some funds to mentor our young folks. But let's talk a little politics. Vice President Joe Biden has been embroiled in drama now for 3 days after the comments where he gave the impression to some that he was praising segregationist senators who he worked with in the past. He has pushed back on that, saying he was not praising them. He was saying how he has been able to work with people who he is opposed to on any number of issues. One of the folks rising to his defense, Congressman John Lewis of Atlanta, Georgia. Congressman Lewis said he was not offended by what Vice President Joe Biden had to say, saying that he too has had to work with people who on the other side of the aisle who he would disagree with on any number of issues. Let's break this thing down with our panel. Joining us right now is Eugene Craig, CEO, Eugene Craig Organization, joining us via Skype. In studio, we have Erica Savage Wilson, host of the Savage Politics Podcast, and CJ Jordan, CEO of Jordan Management Group. I'll start with you, Erica. To have Congressman, first of all, several members of the Congressional Black Caucus have come out in support of Congressman Joe Biden. Congressman Cedric Richmond, who has already endorsed him, he said that there was a meeting the other night that took place between Joe Biden and several members of the CBC. We do also know that Senator Cory Booker and Vice President Biden had a phone call a couple of nights ago. It did not go well. Senator Cory Booker has been really critical of Vice President Joe Biden. And so again, so the fact that this is still going on goes to show how potent the issue is. And frankly, Erica, Vice President Joe Biden has to be very careful not to stir up a hornet's nest unnecessarily.
Oh, absolutely. And I believe that the hornet's nest has already been stirred up. And kudos to Senator Booker for not allowing this just to pass. And also, I think we have to look at Joe Biden's unwillingness to apologize for his comments, which particularly in this climate when we have a racist president who has started his re-election campaign, because of course he never stopped campaigning, raised $25 million, is saying that he wants to keep America great again and continues to roll out policies that hurt black and brown folk, that Joe Biden talking about his colloquial relationships with segregationist senators is something that does not bode well with the base of the Democratic Party, which is black people. And so his unwillingness to apologize when he in effect talked about Eastland to his crowd at this fundraiser to say that, well, he never called me boy, he called me son, and that we were able to work together to get things done. Well, now you're slapping in the face all men and women who have been called out of their names or have been demeaned and not recognized for their human capacity. And so the fact that Joe Biden has not apologized, I do think that that is something that we do not need to allow to go away with short-term memory. I think that's something that voters and people who are thinking about the primaries coming up and that are strongly considering all of these contenders need to take with them when they are considering when they go to the polls.
CJ, many folks who support Bernie Sanders and other candidates have been talking about Joe Biden opposing a busing law. In fact, I got a tweet a few moments ago where folks have posted a letter dated June 30th, 1977, to the Honorable James O. Eastland, and it was said, "Dear Mr. Chairman, I want you to know that I very much appreciate your help during this week's committee meeting in attempting to bring my anti-busing legislation to a vote. I am hopeful that the bill can be voted on at the next meeting, and with your assistance, I'm confident there is sufficient support for approval by the committee. Again, many thanks for your help. Sincerely, Joe." And this has been coming up as well from people who are critical of Joe Biden. How do you believe he needs to end this before it continues?
Well, the only way you're going to end it is he, just comes out and do a dump. I mean, right now, Senator Booker has taken him to task for calling Jesse Jackson a boy, behind the scenes, and now that's coming out. He has taken a position of not truly understanding why the 1994 crime bill locked up over half of, the black population. He's not understanding that. He's also dealing, again, when they dredge up his comments on 7-Eleven and immigrants, and you can't, their voice and their dialect, you can't walk into a 7-Eleven. That was what he said as vice president with President Obama. So all of these things are going to continue to drip, 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 drip out and show who Joe Biden was when he came into the Senate and those Democrats that Southern Democrats who he had a relationship with. And the question becomes for him and his team, should we just do a midnight dump and just get it over with? Because until he does that, it's going to continue.
Right. Eugene, again, the fact that this continues to go on, and first, again, you had Congressman Jim Clyburn, Congressman Cedric Richmond speak on this issue. Now you have Congressman John Lewis. If you're the Biden campaign, you want this thing put to bed so you can begin to focus on the issues. And do you believe that he is able to get past this? Or as yesterday, as one of our guests said, like, look, if you're Cory Booker, you need this because, frankly, it's giving his campaign life.
It's giving Cory Booker's campaign life. I mean, my prediction was that by fall, Cory probably just be focused on his re-election for U.S. Senate. But it's given his campaign dramatic life because now he's seen as taking on the front runner. He's seen as being a David fighting a Goliath. If I'm Team Biden, I think, look, you just simply issue an apology. It's a misunderstanding, maybe even a misquote, a miscommunication, and keep moving forward. I think nobody questions Joe Biden's commitment to civil rights or voting rights. I don't think anybody questioned John Lewis or Jim Clyburn or Cedric Richmond, who are all, strong African-American leaders that have, stood up to Trump, that have stood up to, hardened racists and segregationists that are still sitting in the United States Congress today. But the thing is this, at this point in time, you have a media circus, and the only way to deal with the media circus is simply just apologize, move forward. We live in a 24-hour news cycle. We live in a news cycle where stories last a day. It would be on to the next story if they don't keep stretching out with Joe fighting this.
Well, let's go. Speak of the next story. Let's go to that where all the candidates are in South Carolina, including Joe Biden. They're all attending Congressman Jim Clyburn's fish fry. He, of course, is the only black Democrat from in Congress. You have Senator Tim Scott, who is a United States Senator. And so everybody is there for the fish fry of Congressman Jim Clyburn. He made some interesting comments today in an article in Politico where he said he is very surprised that Senator Cory Booker and Senator Kamala Harris have not been able to catch march on in South Carolina. Nearly 50% of all voters in the Democratic primary there in South Carolina are African American. Everyone assumed that South Carolina was going to be the place where a Senator Kamala Harris or a Senator Cory Booker could really pull away with a win. But the reality is, right now in the polls, as you look at it, you have Joe Biden leading among black voters. Bernie Sanders is second among black voters. You have Elizabeth Warren. Then you have Kamala Harris. Then you have Pete Buttigieg. Cory Booker is around 4% among black voters. Eugene, starting with you, I tried to tell people after Obama, it was going to be different for the next African American running for president. They were not going to get the same runway that Obama did, and we're seeing that.
Yeah, and the things that also led up to Obama getting that runway. If you recall back to 2008, it was pretty tight in South Carolina until we had Bill Clinton's "This is a fairy tale" situation, and then black community really rallied around Barack Obama. But one thing when it comes to the polling right now, I think what people have to be careful about is that polls, and this is something we learned in the 2016 Republican primary. The polls are simply a reflection of who's getting media attention and media coverage. So, you look at Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. They're high name recognition. Bernie ran in 2016. Joe Biden, Barack Obama's former VP. Now let's look at Elizabeth Warren and Pete Buttigieg. Buttigieg is literally a creation of the media, and Elizabeth Warren has, for the last 2 weeks, beginning this glowing media coverage. Finally, being that she's been putting out a plan a day. And Harris and Booker, they're at where their natural places are with their campaigns. We'll see what happens over the next couple months or so. But right now, it's literally, the polls are literally a reflection of who's getting what media coverage. And you can see that, well, who rises and who falls.
Erica, again, when you look at this, yes, it is very early. The first debate isn't until next week. But the fact that you have two black candidates running, I'm going to go back to 2004. I remember I made a bet in 2004 with Keith Cleanscales. Keith Cleanscales was running Vanguard Media, and so I was, of course, I was the news editor for Savoy magazine, and he was supportive of Reverend Al Sharpton. And he said, Roland, Reverend Al Sharpton is going to win. He's going to win South Carolina. I said, no, he's not. I said, Reverend Al Sharpton has no shot at winning South Carolina. I said, Kara Mosley Braun has no shot at winning South Carolina. I said, black voters are smart. Black voters are going to sit there and say, who do I think can win in the general? That's what I think that you're seeing right now with the current polling numbers. Booker and Harris are going to have to prove themselves to black voters. But black voters are saying, I want to beat Trump. And look, who do I think can beat Trump? Right now, they're saying Biden, Sanders, Warren.
Sure, and I agree with Eugene as well that largely a lot of what we're seeing in the polling is really reflective of media darling and also Obama nostalgia around Joe Biden. And black voters are absolutely pragmatic. They're very smart. But it is very early, Roland, and so we do have, we're the summer months, so people are on vacation. People's attention is not really focused on what's happening during the summer. We're engaged with it because this is our job. This is what we do. But I would say let's start looking around September, November, the later months as we start pressing towards the primary to when people will start digging in, focusing, paying attention. The kids are in school. The schedules are a little bit steady. But right now, it's just a bit too early. And you're absolutely right that because black voters are, again, pragmatic, that a candidate is forced to choose to make a real plea and a pledge to black voters, which I think that they should.
CJ.
Well, I think the first thing is when, it's also showing that black voters, particularly Democratic black voters, are not monolithic. And when you start beginning to look at policy and geographical diversity, the question that you have to ask based on Senator Booker being from New Jersey, Kamala Harris from California, and their policies, do their policy positions prior to coming to the Senate align with those black voters in South Carolina? And some of it is not matching up. And so when you look at Joe Biden, until he flip-flopped, he was for the Hyde Amendment dealing with protecting, unborn life. both Booker and Kamala Harris are very, very pro-choice. So it's going to really come down to issues and voting record, and there's going to be a lot more vetting process than what they did in 2008.
But you know what, though, I disagree. I think what you have here again, I think what you're seeing here is you're seeing significant love and support of Vice President Joe Biden because he was the vice president under President Barack Obama. That's first. Two, I think, frankly, let's just be honest. Vice President Joe Biden is known by more people than Senators Booker and Harris. They are going to have to assert themselves. Again, the key for them is going to be, can they win South Carolina? The reality is this, and I don't care what anyone says, Erica, that is, if you're black, you can't win South Carolina. It's going to be a problem for you in other states. I know somebody is saying, oh, Roland Obama, he's black and he won Iowa. No, it's a different deal. The fact of the matter is South Carolina is an early state. And so it's going to be incumbent upon Harris and Booker to make some inroads there and to cut into that lead because, again, they're going to need the launching pad of South Carolina, assuming neither one wins Iowa, neither one wins New Hampshire or Nevada. South Carolina is one of the first four. And your Senator Kamala Harris, polling data right now shows other candidates are deeply cutting into her lead in California. This is going to be a dogfight, and I think people cannot make assumptions saying, well, she's from California, she's going to win California. No assumptions here.
Right. But I think that this does bode well for black voters, particularly because South Carolina has 60% black Democratic voters in the state, to really have candidates vie for their vote. So while Biden, the swath of the vote, the swath of the support that he's receiving is largely based off of him being the VP under the first African-American president of the United States, still those candidates that are polling low at this moment really do need to dig into defining what their black agenda is, talking about policies that greatly do impact and uplift black and brown communities. So I think that South Carolina is important, and I also believe that it is something that all of the candidates need to take very seriously as it relates to the black vote.
Last point here, Eugene. Again, first debate is next week. The way it stacks up, Elizabeth Warren is in the first debate with Cory Booker and as well as Beto O'Rourke. Second debate, Harris will be on stage with Sanders and Biden. Both of them are going to really need a strong showing out of the gate to be able to show if they can compete with the big dogs.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I think Booker probably has the better of the advantage than Harris does. But I think, if you're Warren and Booker on that first night, you have to own the debate stage. You have to own the debate night. You have to control the discussion. If you're Harris on the second debate night, you got to show that you can assert yourself, being the only black woman in the crowd of largely white men on that stage. And so I think they both have great opportunities with huge possible rewards on them. And we'll have to see what happens.
All right, folks, so let's go to our next story. An off-duty California cop was caught on video detaining a man at gunpoint during a road rage incident. Footage taken by the victim's friend shows police officer Kevin Hatchler standing over Weaver, holding him at gunpoint. Folks, watch this video.
All the way down on your face. Don't move. I'm not going to keep telling you. What's the problem, bro? For real, what's the problem? What's the problem? Hey, record this shit. Hold a second. Put a gun on me. No fucking reason. You're trying to run me off the road and pull a gun out me? You're a cop? Right there. You're a cop? What's your badge number? What's your badge number? Legally, you gotta give me your fucking badge number. Give me the badge number then. I'm gonna call your main fucking deputy down here. 1641? I didn't swerve my car. You did. I got over. Okay. You seen me get really right there. You seen my blinker on. You didn't want to let me over. pulls out a 9mm on me. Absolutely nothing. Because he didn't want to let me over on the freeway. Great bitch move. I'm over here trying to buy a car. This man ain't got nothing better to do. What was your badge number again? What'd you say it was? What was it? What was the badge number? I'm pretty sure that's illegal too. But you know, since police can do whatever the fuck they want to black people, you know, they have no fucking repercussions. Fucking ridiculous. You don't even need your gun, bro. Like, we're complying with you. Why do you still have your gun out? He ain't running. I ain't running. You really think that's necessary? Feel like a man with that gun?
Now, while he was on the ground with a gun pointed at him, 3 children ages 1, 3, and 12 were in his car. James Weaver is filing a lawsuit. Joining us right now is James Weaver and Reverend Shane Harris with the People's Alliance for Justice. James, I want to go to you first. You had no idea this guy was a cop? So when did you find out? I mean, did he present himself as that, or did he just come out of the blue dressed in jeans and a shirt with a gun?
I found out he was a cop after I was on the ground at gunpoint, basically. That's when I found out he was a police officer.
Why did he stop you, and why were you on the ground?
So we were coming from Reno into Stockton to buy a car, and we were also picking up a friend because he was on the train. That's actually where it all happened at. And we were going to meet him, and then that's kind of where the situation all escalated and happened there.
Right, but what I'm saying is, why did he stop and detain you? Did he just say it was a legal turn? I mean, like, what was the reason? Why all of a sudden did he pull a gun out and have you on the ground?
He said that I swerved and tried to hit him, and I was driving erratically.
Reverend Shane, I want to go to you now. It's very interesting because I remember being in Chicago, and I was going down a particular street, and then this unmarked car sped up beside me, and this guy's yelling at me, and I don't know who the hell he is. I can't tell he's a cop. Then when he jumps out of his car, he's showing his badge, and I tell him, I said, how am I supposed to know? He was like, why don't you pull over? I said, well, who the hell are you? I said, no lights on the car. I said, I don't see a badge. I'm not just going to pull over just because you want me to pull over.
Right. I think that, what we're seeing here is a big concern to us, Roland, and thank you for always highlighting such important issues. This is why your platform is so needed across this country, because black and brown men in this country are, profiled at larger rates than any other race. Black and brown people are incarcerated more than any other race. And the reality for particularly black men like James Weaver is that this man is on the road. He's headed into Stockton from Reno, Nevada to buy a new car. And basically this cop gets rogue or angry because of his interaction with Mr. Weaver. He's off duty. He's an off-duty officer. And he waits until Mr. Weaver gets to the location he's going to after driving behind him for more than a mile. And here's the thing. Off-duty cop is not supposed to even approach someone unless it's a complete emergency. He had at least a mile worth of time to call backup and be able to get some other backup actual on-duty officers with him. So he gets out of his car. James gets to the scene, and James is arriving at his location, walking into the train station to pick his friend up. And this cop, who does not identify himself until he pulls his gun out, tells James Weaver to get on the ground. James is seeking answers about who this man is. I mean, why is it that we are in a society where we're not able to tell the difference between a robber and a cop? he doesn't know who this man is, and all the way until after James gets on the ground, which I don't know if I would have done, Roland. Then does this cop tell his friends and the other people in the car, his niece, that he's a cop. I mean, this is really egregious and very scary when you are in this kind of society where you are not able to even know the difference between a robber and a cop in this particularly off-duty situation. This cop should have called the police,
James,
should have called those on duty,
right,
and should have had some kind of process of ensuring his safety and the safety of James Weaver, but instead used his rogue, angry nature and his position of power as a cop to go after James Weaver.
James, I understand that you're filing a lawsuit.
Yes.
And when will that take place?
I'm not too sure yet. It's still in the progress at the moment.
Well,
Next
first
week,
of all, we're certainly glad that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Reverend.
Yeah, Attorney Stephen King here in Southern California is actually going to be taking on James Weaver's case, and I believe that Attorney King is going to be coming up to Stockton area to meet with Mr. Weaver and do a press conference with Mr. Weaver in announcing the lawsuit. Real quick before we go, I think this is very important. We have spoken to the mayor as well as the police chief, our Stockton, Sacramento leadership of the People's Alliance for Justice, Chris Adams and others are up there dealing with that. And the real fact here that was really concerning to us, Roland, was the fact that this actually was confirmed by the mayor, by the leadership of the city, the police chief, that this cop was in fact off duty, that this cop, was in fact, didn't really have a whole lot around this. James Weaver goes back to Reno, Nevada, where he lives. He was coming to Stockton to buy his car. The cop obviously charged him or sought to charge him with assault with a deadly weapon, which was his car. And that charge was dropped. James Weaver found out that charge was dropped when he traveled back from Stockton a week later for his court hearing date to find out from the clerk that he didn't need to be in court because there was no reason to be there. There's no charges on his file. And then to find out from the district attorney through media that the charges had officially been dropped, So we believe that even though this is not a big money case, we know that Attorney Ben Crump and D.L. Hewley, who we think pushed it out there, we know this is not a big money case. This is about racial profiling in this country. What happened to the family in Phoenix? Egregious. And this is the kind of platform that we need to ensure that people understand that you cannot do this to young black men in this country. And if you do it, we're going to be there to stand up for justice, and we're going to be there to organize. And so Attorney Stephen King is going to be taking on this case, but we're going to be organizing and continuing to organize on James Weaver's behalf along with him and his family, because we believe what happened to him was really egregious and really wrong at every lane. So if folks want to know more information, they can reach out to the People's Alliance for Justice at 213-349-2261 or go to peoplesallianceforjustice.net as we continue this fight for James Weaver in Stockton.
All right, folks, I appreciate it. James Weaver and Reverend Shane Harris, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we come back. We're going to break down. We come back. We're going to talk about getting ready for summer, getting your body ready, which might mean changing your diet. All that next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. So I'm broadcasting live from Atlanta, Georgia. Back in a moment. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. All right, folks, they're back. MarijuanaStock.org has another great investment opportunity. If you were lucky enough to invest in their last crowdfunding campaign, you know they raised a lot of money in just a few months investing in legal marijuana farms. Those initial investors now own shares of a publicly traded company. And, of course, they're excited by that. Now they have a new investment opportunity that is as good, if not better, than the last. I'm talking about industrial hemp CBD. For those who don't know, the hemp plant is a cousin to marijuana, of course, and then it has a higher concentration of CBD, which means hemp CBD gives you all of the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Now, until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the U.S. and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, that changed with the 2018 Farm Bill, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. They need land to grow all of the plants, and this makes for an incredible investment opportunity. And that's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. You can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200 up to $10,000. All right, folks, all you got to do is go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org if you want to get in the game. And if you do so, do it now. All right, folks, welcome back to Roland Martin Unfiltered. Now, today, of course, is the first day of summer, and people are already posting their photos by the pool, by the beach, and there are others who are saying, I'm not doing any of that because I don't look the way I want to. Well, part of that is also not just exercise, but it's also what we eat and when it comes to losing weight. And so joining us right now to talk about this is Nathaniel Jordan. He is the Minister of Wellness. Nathaniel, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, brother. It's an honor to finally speak with you.
So again, folks talk a lot about working out and walking and exercising, things along those lines. But if you talk to many nutritionists, they tell you the key to losing weight, 80 to 90% of it is really your diet, not your workout.
Correct, and I'm a living witness because I lost 100 pounds. And I've kept my weight off for 7 years. And I also reversed the killer of 400 black men every 3 days, and that's heart disease. And I want to tell you also, Brother Roland, the response that I received from the lecture that you live streamed that's still up on your page is still, I'm still getting feedback from that. People, lives have been transformed. So I just wanted to throw that out there and to say thank you. You should see some of the testimonials I got from people changing their family's diet and reversing even mental illness. But diet is the cake, and then exercise is the icing on top of the cake. We have to change our diet.
You talked about reversing, losing 100 plus pounds, keeping it off for 7 years. How did you do it?
I learned about the 12 components of food addiction. The reason why we all want to be lean and healthy, but we're struggling to achieve that is there are 12 components of food addiction. The foods that we're addicted to, let's be honest, they're more addicting than crack cocaine. And many of us, no matter what type of willpower we use, unless you understand addiction, and those 12 components that I've discovered through my 7 years, because it hasn't been easy, brother. It hasn't been easy to stay this way. And I've put together these components, and I travel the nation as a speaker, teaching people how to defeat those components of food addiction. And that was one of the lectures that you live streamed, Genocide by Diet, on your Facebook page.
I'm going to go to Eugene Craig because Eugene, of course, has talked about getting type 2 diabetes. Was it type 2 diabetes, Gene? Well, you were what,
type 1,
25?
Type 1.
And how old were you?
26 at the
You
time.
see, you were 21? You were 26 at the time. And so Eugene, what question do you have for the minister?
One thing that my endocrinologist told me, when discovering I had diabetes was some of the slight changes in diet, dealing with carbs and dealing with meat. What are some of the minor things that could have major impacts that people could do? Because sometimes it's the slight changes in your lifestyle that could have the major impact on how you live.
Well, we want to eat a diet that's based on fresh fruits and vegetables. It's the micronutrient content, the vitamins, the minerals, the natural phytonutrients within plant foods. It's the old saying, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. The foods that have the most medicines are fresh fruits and vegetables. The problem, brother, is that we have lost our taste for real food, and we have become addicted to fake food. And our addiction is so strong that we call fake food, we call real food rabbit food, and fake food is human food now. So we have to flip that.
Define fake food. What do you consider fake food?
So fake food would be the foods loaded with all the toxic chemicals. So you have takes a Oreo cookie or the Twinkies or the donuts and cakes with the paragraphs full of ingredients you can barely pronounce. Then we have to consider where our meat is coming from. They're sticking them with loads of hormones and antibiotics, and the diet they're feeding them is unnatural. So I consider those fake food because they add no nourishment or medicinal value to our body, and more importantly to our brain, which is something that we're underestimating. Which I have a whole lecture that I focused on concerning that. So those are the food. I call them Franken foods. They're designed in a laboratory. They take the whole plant foods and manipulate them, and we get all of these fake foods that are in many places are the only options that people have to eat.
Erica.
For joining us, and I just want to say, oorah, my father is a Marine, served for over 20 years. And so with the message that you're carrying, you just shared with us that food addiction is even more aggressive than someone who is addicted to crack. How do we get that message to penetrate into mainstream so that people can start to reverse course at numbers that really seem like the message is taking hold?
Well, it is a difficult hill to climb, but that's why me as a health speaker, I travel around to different organizations. It's growing within the church. I speak at churches quite often and other organizations, NAACP and Urban League, and usually the response is tremendous. But it's a lot of knowledge. It takes a lot of knowledge. I have signature programs that I teach that really focus on empowering people so they can believe that they can do it, because a lot of people have lost hope. They don't believe that life is worth living without eating barbecue ribs and fried chicken. And I know this because I posted videos on very large platforms, even when I did the live stream with you, Brother Roland, because the video I did with you, it got a combined over 100,000 views. And even within the comments, you still have, unfortunately, a lot of naysayers who just don't want to accept the fact that what we eat could even affect our emotions and could even affect how we treat each other and how we feel. So it's an uphill battle, but I'm fighting that battle. I was out in D.C. working with Rock Newman. That's how I got connected, to have the honor to have that whole live stream posted on your page, and I had helped him. But even he'll tell you the battle with food addiction is serious. I don't know anybody who has these 12 components like I do, and that's why I appreciate you all's help in giving me these type of platforms to let people know that, hey, I've reversed heart disease. I lost 100 pounds. I've kept it off. I'm 7 years strong, and I have the knowledge to help you all to get off what I call the death train.
CJ, final question from you.
I think one of the things I would love to know, when people talking about the fruits and vegetables, because I grew up on a farm, and the fact that they would have to convert back to using that as a primary means, particularly for women, there often comes a pH imbalance. What do you share with folks as they're beginning to restructure their eating habits and natural ways to stabilize their pH balance for women?
There's definitely a period of detoxing that we have to go through. That's actually one of the components of overcoming food addiction is the withdrawal and the change that goes on in the body. However, it doesn't take too long, and I have tremendous success stories. If you go to my website, theministerofwellness.com, I have dozens of success stories pouring in across the nation, and most of my success stories usually are women. And I do want to encourage sisters out there that I tell you that my female clients, they lose weight just as quickly and just as permanently and reverse their conditions just as fast as men do. So it's just an initial period of letting the body change. But when you really dive into it, it shouldn't take any longer than 1 or 2 weeks.
Nathaniel Jordan, we appreciate it. How can people reach out to you?
Well, I'm on YouTube, The Minister of Wellness. I have a 12-part series covering each component of food addiction. My website for seminars is nathanieljordan.com. I have books, DVDs, and supplements at theministerofwellness.com. Theministerofwellness.com. I'm the only one in the world, and that's how you can find me on any social media platform.
All right. We certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It was an honor, brother.
All right, folks, going to a break right now. We come back. Where are the black people going in Chicago? They're losing their black population. We'll discuss that next. Roland Martin Unfiltered, back in a moment. Hey, fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications.
Black literature is taught as sociology, as tolerance, not as a serious, rigorous art form. Writer Toni Morrison.
Okay, all right. Yeah. All right, folks, let's talk about what's happening in Cook County. According to the U.S. Census, they're continuing to lose black people and white folks. The Hispanic and the Asian population continues to grow. At 1.2 million, African Americans still make up. Cook County is still the largest county of African Americans in the country, but they lost 75,000 African Americans in the last year. So what's going on there? I want to talk about this with our panel. Eric, I want to start with you first. The reason that this is important because now what you're talking about a shift in terms of control of cities and counties. You look at Washington, D.C., of course, used to be known as Chocolate City. It's barely Mocha City right now. And so even though you have a black mayor, the reality is this city is changing. Right. Now, the benefits of that, you're seeing African Americans who are moving into Prince George's County and Montgomery County, but population shifts where you've had significant black population also is going to lead to changes in those places. And so Chicago has to figure out what do they do about this. Clearly, a lot of people leave. I know personally people who are leaving because of the violence in that city. Also, for some folks, it's the cold. But we're also finding, Erica, are a lot of black people who are leaving northern and Midwest cities, returning home to their southern roots.
Absolutely, Roland. And you know why? Because it's more economically advantaged for those families to do that. So listen, you mentioned Chicago and D.C. D.C. is one of the number one, it's leading in gentrification, and it's on steroids, particularly when you start thinking and talking about opportunity zones, which the mayors across the 50 states had to assign 25% of land for those, for people to come in for those opportunities to really gentrify neighborhoods. So going back to what we're seeing happen in Chicago, you've got 4 neighborhoods. I was reading a report today. You have 4 neighborhoods that were historically black and brown neighborhoods in Chicago that are now unrecognizable. That definitely has an impact as well. So as people begin to see their neighborhoods changing the landscape, that the property taxes are going up, as you mentioned, people are returning not only to their roots, but to a place where they could grow their families and it won't hit them as hard in the pocket.
Eugene, the point that she makes about economics is really critical because the reality is when you talk about living in the Northeast, living in the Midwest, a lot more expensive than it is living in the South. When you look at the price of homes, things along those lines. Let's also be honest, when you look at some of these states like Texas, where you have no state income tax, black folks are saying, you know what? Yeah, those states might be different. They might be deemed red states, but for many of us, that's home.
Yeah, and the other part of it is that a lot of these states have growing economies in comparison to a lot of the states that they're leaving. Illinois is in a, from a broader standpoint, is in a fiscal crisis year in, year out. In particular, Cook County, with a lot of the redevelopment, um, the home prices are rising, but the economic opportunities aren't rising. And so what you're seeing is that you're seeing, Atlanta become what, Detroit was. You're seeing what a lot of cities in Texas become what the North was, 50, 60 years ago for black people. And so it's a lot of it, a big part of it is economic. A big part of it is the accessibility of economic opportunities and cost of living.
CJ, this also has an impact on politics. One of the reasons that you're seeing Reverend William Barber and others push so hard in these southern states because they want to ensure that black populations are being able to benefit from these population shifts. And we better understand that moving for economics is one thing, but we want to ensure that our power is also not diluted while that happens.
Well, the one thing that data also showed was the increase of Hispanic growth also in southern states and in southern cities like Atlanta, like in North Carolina. And so, the African American community, we really need to have a discussion amongst ourselves of what does this browning of America mean for us when we have been the majority minority? Because we're going to be not the majority minority anymore. And how do we continue to progress and get our community move ahead?
First of all, we're not the majority. First of all, we're not the majority minority right now. I mean, for actually, the Latino population is larger than that of the African American population. So that's the way it is right now, anyway.
Well, but again, what I was saying is, how do we come together to really deal with the transformation of this population shift? Because we have been the majority minority for a long time, and so now
we have not. We lost that a while ago.
Again, I was saying, Roland, for a long time we were, but that population shift is happening. And so how do we, as the black community, really become accustomed to what this new meaning means? Because there are still some cities where we are still the majority minority, but that is rapidly changing. And how do we, when we start looking at losing our electoral clout, the shifting of more black Hispanics running that might not identify with the black American experience. So we must have a true conversation as the population shift begins to happen.
CJ, I'm sorry. What are you talking about?
What am I talking about was the data that you just talked about.
Hold up. One second. There are more black members of the Congressional Black Caucus today than there have ever been in history, Eugene.
Roland, the thing with CJ's getting at is the old conservative, fallacy and trope that, hey, it has to either be black or Hispanic, one or the other, that, both groups can't rise together. As if, the plight that we all are dealing with is not similar or one and the same. Increasing Hispanic numbers does not mean that, black voters are now, their vote mean less, or that there can be less opportunities for black voters. It's a conservative fallacy that conservatives like to use, in regards to the Hispanic community and particularly immigration. That's where CJ's getting at.
No, that's not where I'm getting it. I'm looking at the data, and it goes back to when Ross.
You literally just said
this
that,
is
hey,
not a. I did not get this from a conservative talking point, Eugene.
Hold up. I can't hear either one of you. Eugene, finish your point, then CJ.
I said, CJ literally just sat here and said, hey, we need to figure out what black America's place is going to be in the browning of America, as if the increasing Hispanic populations are going to displace black America's either political power or economic power. That was literally her argument.
And then it's absolutely
now,
correct
CJ.
because, and again, when you look at the Congressional Black Caucus, yes, we do have the most number of members in the CBC, but it also was a spat that took place when Charlie Rangel lost his seat to a black Hispanic. And that played out in public of where his allegiance was going to be, whether it was going to be to the Hispanic Congressional Caucus or to the CBC. And so we must
Okay,
have
hold
this
up, stop.
conversation.
First of all, the guy who he lost to is the first Dominican in the United States Congress. That's
That's not
first.
what I'm arguing
Okay,
about.
Hold up. But what my point is that congressional district also changed. Look, look.
And that's
the
about,
reality
again,
is this
goes
here.
to the
No,
shifting of
wait a
demographic
minute.
population shift.
Wait a minute. You got Sanford Bishop is the member of Congress from Georgia with a significant white population in his district. So the bottom line is this here. What's going to happen is when we talk about population shifts, what it also boils down to are African Americans voting our numbers to ensure that we're maximizing our power. That, to me, I think what has to happen. I got to go to my next story. I meant to mention this earlier, and that is Pete Buttigieg is having to deal with the shooting there in South Bend, Indiana. According to police reports, the officer was responding to a call regarding a suspicious person going through cars downtown. He found Eric Logan partially inside a vehicle in the parking lot of Central High School apartments. The officer says he approached the officer. The officer says he approached the officer with a knife raised and was then shot. Now, there's no body camera video. The name of the officer who shot Eric Logan has not been released, but he has been placed on administrative leave. The fact that this happened, Eugene, Buttigieg had to come off of the campaign trail to address this issue, and people have also been critical, saying, wait a minute, Buttigieg, why didn't you have body cam videos in your police department? And I saw one tweet where somebody said, how are you espousing policies to be president that you haven't even implemented as a mayor?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about it is this: mayors have the most direct, localized control of police departments. A mayor wants their police department to have body cameras and body cameras that don't turn off. They can have it.
Right.
They can mandate that it's policy that, hey, you turn off your body camera, you get an automatic suspension. You turn off your dash cam, you get an automatic suspension. The fact that this officer's name has not been released yet, but we have a dead citizen, is egregious. I think, next week when, folk are on the debate stage with them, they need to directly question them about it. They need to directly ask questions about, hey, why haven't you released the name of this officer yet? Folk are correct. You cannot, on one hand, espouse policies of what you want to do to a nation that you won't even do in your own city.
Yeah.
Erica.
Yeah, and just what Eugene said. So mayors have the power, and they oversee housing, transportation, fire, and police departments. So he does not get a hand clap of praise, a slow clap. This is literally his job. And the fact that in the piece reading today, that he talked about when he went and spoke with people in the community, he felt like, and I'm paraphrasing a bit, that it was really a good idea to really communicate what happened in with people that are in his community. This is his job, and so honestly, I am very now more curious about, number one, why he's running. What is the interest that he has in the American people when he doesn't seem to be connecting with his own community that he was elected to do?
CJ, your thoughts?
Well, my curiosity is the fact that why did it take a police shooting for him to even show up in the black community in the first place, when there's plenty of reports that African Americans in his city have not seen him, much less, he hasn't showed up. So the question is, where has he been since he's been mayor in the black community? Where's Pete? Because he hasn't been showing up until shooting.
All right, folks, I got to go. This is my last story. And you know what? We might as well deal with Stuck on Stupid to end the week. And he always does this. So on Fox News. So first of all, here's what you have right now. You got a whole bunch of Republicans, Dinesh D'Souza and others, who want to make the argument that racism and slavery and Jim Crow was all Democrats. And it was all because of Democrats. So Larry Elder, of course, the one who wrote a book called Stupid Black Men, sounded like a stupid person when he went on Fox News and said this.
We need affordable health care.
Right.
So he's basically saying what you said about stop living in the past. Let's move forward and focus on how we can improve. And then also, you had Burgess Owens, who, the athlete, the Oakland Raider, he was in there and he said, listen, I used to be a Democrat. He said the party, that is the
Right.
party of slavery. And when I did some investigating, I realized that's why I need to leave the party. And he also said that we need to focus on black children doing better on test scores. And he mentions what's happening in the state of California.
Well, that's right. Only about 5% of white people have any sort of generational connection to slavery. The government did not own slaves. Republicans did not own slaves. Democrats owned slaves. Democrats founded the KKK. Democrats opposed the 13th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment. As a percentage of the party, more Republicans voted for the Civil Rights Act of 1964 than did Democrats. Maybe Democrats ought to sue themselves for reparation.
CJ, are you, as a black conservative, are you embarrassed by Larry Elder?
I mean, there are some things I agree with Larry on and some things I disagree with Larry on.
But are you consistently embarrassed by him sound like a damn fool?
Well, depending on what the subject matter is. So, no, I can't say...
Eugene, he was lying, Eugene. First of all, Dinesh D'Souza tweeted out that if anyone can prove to me that Republicans own slaves, I will take these tweets down. Historian Kevin Cruz put his foot in his ass, and he went tweet after tweet showing Republicans who were slave owners. I don't understand why Larry Elder and people on Fox News have this fascination that somehow that white supremacy was a democratic thing. Right. White supremacy was a white thing. Yes. There's, in fact, look, President Herbert Hoover was the leader of the Lily White movement. Mm-hmm. He was a Republican.
Yeah. I mean, look, we don't have to go into history. We can stay here in 2019. In 2019, we have a sitting member of Congress that wants to repeal the 14th Amendment because it grants birthright citizenship. That is a current sitting member of Congress, and Steve King. I'll answer your question. As a black Republican, as a black conservative, hell yeah, I am absolutely every day embarrassed by Larry Elder and a lot of other folk that get airtime on Fox News. It's absolutely embarrassing. It's embarrassing to the black community. The thing is this. There may be hard for folk to directly tie their ancestry to the direct slave owners. But I'll put it like this. Every single white person in America has benefited from the institution of slavery and the way a lot of policies and economic opportunities are applied today. If we didn't have the economic history that we have here in this country, there'd be no need for set-asides. We wouldn't have to have this conversation. But because of redlining, because of the need of things like the Fair Housing Act and the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, here we are today.
Erica, it's a lie. Republicans did own slaves. Democrats own slaves. Guess what? There have been racist Democrats, racist Republicans. And what Larry Elder also does not want to own up to, that Southern Dixiecrats align with conservative Republicans to try to stop the Voting Rights Act of 65 and the Civil Rights Act of 64. What Larry Elder also does not want to mention is that it was Republicans who also filibustered the Fair Housing Act. It was a Republican, who was like, we're not moving on this. And so we can sit here and play games all day, and I love them trying to sit here and pin this. But here's the deal. Since the Civil Rights Act of 64, which, of course, Barry Goldwater opposed. Right. The reality is the Republican Party has flipped. The Republican Party today is the opposition party. They are against civil rights. They are against affirmative action. They are in support of voter suppression. They consistently advocate for policies that denigrate, degrade, and actually limit the future of African Americans. It's just a fact. Erica, go ahead.
Absolutely, Roland, and you said it perfectly. And we saw this mass exodus of Republicans, starting back in the late 40s and continuing on to the 70s and 80s. As you mentioned, they are Dixiecrats. LBJ said that after signing both of those historical acts that you named, one of which has been gutted back in 2013, that provides voter protections, particularly for Black and brown communities, that listen, that he knew that he had delivered, okay? He delivered the vote and lost the South to Republicans. So honestly, this is less about party. This is about slave owners who were white women and men. And so that is something that needs to be accounted for. But what is very unfortunate is that we're living in a climate of sound bites, and so that there are people that don't really care about the context or that don't have the historical context to understand
Of
that
course.
this has never been about party. This has always been about upholding whiteness.
Well, what you got is Fox News will never have somebody on the opposite side to actually provide those facts, which are critically important. And so they'll trot out the Burgess Owens of the world. They'll trot out Larry Elder. They'll trot out Candace Owens. They'll trot out all of those people, none of them who seem to have ever actually read a book to understand what the truth is when it comes to policies in this country. And so the operative word in white supremacy is white.
Yep.
And folks need to understand that. And again, if any of y'all out there, if you are a conservative and you want to disagree with me, fine. I want you to go type in Google Herbert Hoover and the Lily White Party. That was a faction of the Republican Party that aligned with the KKK, and they wanted nothing to do with black people. Herbert Hoover was one of the most racist presidents in American history. He was a Republican, and he was followed eventually by a grand racist in Woodrow Wilson, who was a Democrat. You know what that means? Two white men, one Democrat, one Republican, both of them were racist. That is simply our reality. All right, folks, I have got to go. Want to thank Eugene. Want to thank Erica. Want to thank CJ. Folks, we're broadcasting live from Atlanta. Tomorrow I'm going to be playing in a golf tournament. I'm the host of it. And all the money we raise goes to support Susan Taylor's National Cares Mentoring Project. And so what's going on, we're going to be tomorrow 8 a.m. Out at Wolf Creek Golf Club, 3000 Union Road in Southwest Atlanta. You can come on out. If you want to register, you can do so. It is for their University for Parents. And so we are looking forward to having a good time out there. Susan called me and she said, Roland, can you please do this? I said, look, when Susan Taylor calls, you answer the phone. And so that's why I'm here in Atlanta. And so it is a gorgeous day out here in Atlanta. A little warm, but I'm from Houston, so it's no big deal. But if you want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered, folks, we're all about presenting you news and information you're not going to get anywhere else. We're all about, of course, empowering you as well. And so to support us, we want you to go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Join our Brain the Funk fan club. And if you join the fan club, you get discounts to books and other items on my website. If you have signed up via Cash App, if you have not gotten your promo code, shoot us an email. We'll get it to you as well. Our goal is to get 1,000 new fan members by the end of June. And so our goal is to get folks to contribute $50. It can be $5 a month. It could be at one time. You can do it over the course of several months. But if you also want to give more than that, that's fine as well. But what we're trying to create here is an independent black media company that speaks to our issues and our concerns. So that's why we are here. And so please support us at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. All right, folks, I got to go. I shall be back in studio on Monday. Looking forward to it. And again, be sure to support Susan Taylor's National Cares Mentoring Project for everybody back there in D.C. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. Talk to you guys later. Holla!
Hey everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble. Yes, I am. Because Roland Martin's the one, he will do it backwards, he will do it on the side. He messes everybody up when he gets into the wobble, because he doesn't know how to do it, so he does it backwards. And it messes me up every single time. So I'm working on it. I got it. You got Roland Martin.
Hi, my name is Latoya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mac Wiles, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play.
Hey everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble. Yes, I am. Because Roland Martin's the one, he will do it backwards, he will do it on the side. He messes everybody up when he gets into the wobble, because he doesn't know how to do it, so he does it backwards. And it messes me up every single time. So I'm working on it. I got it. You got Roland Martin.
Hi, my name is Latoya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mac Wiles, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.